They came with 10,000 ships, each forged in the heart of a dying star, commanded by the most ruthless strategist in the galaxy. The Galactic Meridian Empire had never failed to dominate, never encountered resistance worth remembering. Earth was supposed to be another checkmark in their ever-growing ledger of conquests. But they had underestimated one thing. Humans didn't fight with just weapons. They fought with chaos, confusion, coffee, and something far more dangerous: culture. The Empire had quantum cannons. Earth had memes. This was not an invasion. It was a collision between order and absurdity, between militaristic pride and a species raised on sitcoms and sarcasm. And as Supreme Commander Kyle Virek would soon discover, they were completely unprepared. Commander Kyle Virek stood at the observation deck of the Imperial command vessel Eternal Dominion, watching the holographic display of yet another insignificant solar system. His 4 upper appendages were clasped behind his back in what he considered a pose of magnificent authority, while his lower ones rhythmically tapped against the polished obsidian floor. The soft blue glow from the star chart cast shadows across his scaled features, highlighting the numerous honor marks etched into his ceremonial armor. "Tell me again," he said, his voice dripping with amusement, "why this backwater planet requires an entire battle fleet." He turned to face Admiral Thelena, whose translucent membrane wings fluttered in obvious discomfort. "Well, Supreme Commander," Thelena began, clearing all 3 of her throat sacs. "The intelligence reports suggest that despite their primitive technology, these humans have shown remarkable adaptability. They have managed to establish colonies on 2 other bodies in their system and have begun rudimentary, faster-than-light experiments." Kyle Virek let out a sound that, in 7,000 years of Galactic Meridian Empire history, had never failed to make subordinates wish they were anywhere else. It was a laugh, but not the kind that suggested genuine mirth. No, this was the laugh of someone who had conquered 32 star systems and found the idea of resistance absolutely adorable. "Adaptability," he purred, the word rolling off his tongue like sweet venom. "My dear Admiral, we are the Meridian Empire. We turned the Zorblax Nebula into a vacation resort. We redirected the River of Stars. We play quantum billiards with black holes for entertainment." He paused for dramatic effect, something he'd practiced extensively in front of his personal holo mirror. "These humans still think radio waves are impressive." Lieutenant Joran, a newer addition to the command staff, dared to speak up. "But Commander, our preliminary scans indicate they have an unusual number of what they call movies about alien invasions. They seem surprisingly prepared, at least in theory, for extraterrestrial contact." Kyle Virek's secondary eyes rolled so hard they completed a full 360-degree rotation. "Oh, how terrifying. They have entertainment simulations. Shall we surrender now? Perhaps offer them control of the galactic core as a sign of good faith." The command deck erupted in carefully measured laughter, not too loud to be disrespectful, but enough to show appreciation for the commander's wit. Kyle Virek basked in it like a solar serpent on a warm asteroid. "No, my friends," he continued, spreading all 4 arms in a grand gesture. "We will implement Standard Conquest Protocol 7, a simple blockade. Cut them off from the rest of space. Let them stew in their own isolation until they realize the futility of independence. After all, it worked perfectly on the last 27 civilization we graciously introduced to imperial rule." He turned back to the holographic display, zooming in on the blue-green planet with an almost paternal smile. "Prepare the fleet, and do make sure we record everything. I want this to be added to my personal collection of greatest subjugations. Volume 12, I believe we are up to now. As his officers scrambled to carry out his orders, Kael Virek allowed himself a moment of pure satisfaction. In a few standard cycles, Earth would be just another jewel in the Empire's crown, its people another footnote in the glorious history of Meridian expansion. Oh, how wrong he was. The first sign that something amiss came when the humans completely failed to panic. Kael Virek watched with growing irritation as his magnificent fleet of 10,000 ships took up their blockade positions, their silver hulls gleaming in the sunlight, their weapon systems casting beautiful auroras across Earth's upper atmosphere. And the humans responded by sending a diplomatic delegation. "They want to what?" Kael Virek asked, his scales shifting from their usual majestic purple to a confused magenta. Intelligence Officer Mira Solon consulted her datapad. "They wish to welcome us to their solar system, sir. They have prepared what they call a reception committee. The lead diplomat is someone named Alara Quinn. They are also offering to share something called coffee as a gesture of goodwill." Coffee. Kael Virek's secondary eyes narrowed. "Is it a weapon?" "Our scans indicate it's a beverage made from roasted beans, sir." The commander slammed all four hands onto his command console, causing several junior officers to jump. "They dare to offer us peasant drinks. When have we come to subjugate them? Where is the screaming, the mass hysteria, the panicked launching of their primitive nuclear weapons?" Admiral Nixus cleared her throat sacs again. "Perhaps we should accept the meeting, sir. Standard Protocol 7 does suggest establishing communication before." "Oh, very well." Kael Virek sighed, with the weight of someone who had far better things to do than humor primitive species. "But I want it recorded for my personal entertainment archive. And someone scan that coffee for biological weapons." The meeting took place aboard the Eternal Dominion's diplomatic chamber, a room specifically designed to intimidate visitors with its towering ceilings, impossible geometries, and gravity-defying water features. Ambassador Alara Quinn, however, seemed more interested in examining the architectural details than cowering in fear. "Fascinating use of non-Euclidean spaces," she commented, sipping her coffee with irritating calmness. "The way you have manipulated local space-time for aesthetic purposes is quite impressive. We have only managed similar effects in laboratory conditions." Kael Virek felt a headache building in all three of his brains. This was not how first contact was supposed to go. Where was the awe, the terror, the desperate pleading for mercy? "Let me be clear," he said, leaning forward on his hover throne. "We are not here to exchange architectural observations. We are the Galactic Meridian Empire. We have come to add your world to our glorious domain. This blockade will remain until you submit to Imperial rule." Alara took another sip of coffee. "Yes, we gathered that from your rather dramatic arrival. However, we were hoping to discuss terms that might be mutually beneficial. Earth has a long history of diverse governmental systems and successful cultural integration terms." Kael Virek laughed that special laugh again. "My dear Primitive, you seem to be under the impression that this is a negotiation. Allow me to illuminate your position. We have 10,000 ships. You have, what was it, Lieutenant Jorin? 47 operational spacecraft, sir. Most of them seem to be focused on something called scientific research." 47, how adorable. Kael Virek's scales rippled with amusement. "You see, Admiral Reeves, this conversation is merely a courtesy. Your species will submit, or you will remain isolated until you do. Those are the only terms." Alara Quinn stood up, straightening her uniform. "That's disappointing to hear, Commander. We had hoped for a more constructive dialogue. Still, thank you for the meeting, and for scanning the coffee so thoroughly, though I assure you, the only danger from this batch is possible over-acidity. As the human delegation departed, Kale Virek turned to Mira Solon. Make sure we record their every attempt to break the blockade. I want to savor each failed effort. It should provide excellent entertainment during our mandatory relaxation periods. Lieutenant Joran watched the human ships return to Earth. Sir, should we be concerned that they seem so unfazed? Please, Lieutenant. What could a species that still gets excited about sending probes to their own moon possibly do to the greatest empire in the galaxy? Now, who wants to watch the highlights of my conquest of the silicon hives? I had it remastered in full sensory format. 3 weeks into what Kyle Virek had anticipated would be a routine blockade, the transmissions began. At first, they were easy to dismiss, random bursts of entertainment broadcasts that somehow slipped through their communication barriers. The humans called it television. Commander Mira Solon reported during the morning status update. Our ships are receiving something called the Great British Bake-Off. The crew of Battlecruiser 447 has become particularly invested in who will win Star Baker this week. Kale Virek's headache, which had taken up permanent residence in all 3 of his brains, intensified. Block it. We did, sir. Then they started receiving something called cat videos. Block those, too. We are trying, sir. But every time we adjust our filters, new content breaks through. The night shift was recently exposed to something called memes. 3 communication officers had to take mandatory relaxation periods after trying to understand something called rickrolling. Lieutenant Crass nervously shuffled his tentacles. Sir, there's more. Some of our crew members have started using human phrases. Yesterday I heard the engineering team on Dreadnought 12 say LOL in verbal conversation. Kale Virek's scales shifted to a dangerous shade of crimson. This is psychological warfare, plain and simple. They are trying to contaminate our pure imperial culture with their primitive entertainment. He paused, then added with suspicious haste, and no, I have not been watching their sporting events. Any reports of me cheering for something called the underdog are purely fabricated. But the transmissions were just the beginning. Ships started reporting odd occurrences. Small items went missing. Nothing crucial, just random objects like maintenance tools or snack rations. The number of required equipment recalibrations increased exponentially. Several ships reported their artificial gravity randomly reversing, though technical scans showed nothing wrong. During the 4th week, Admiral Nixus brought more disturbing news. Sir, we have lost contact with our forward scout ships. All of them. No, that's the strange part. They're just randomly going dark. 1 here, 2 there. No distress signals, no signs of combat. They are simply vanishing. Kale Virek waved 2 of his arms dismissively. Probably equipment malfunctions, or the crews are too distracted by human entertainment to maintain proper communication protocols. There's something else, Nixus continued, her wings fluttering anxiously. Remember those 47 spacecrafts the humans had? They're little science vessels. What about them? We can only account for 39 now. Kale Virek's third eye twitched. And the other 8? Unknown, sir. Our scans show them still in their original positions, but what, Admiral? Well, sir, Lieutenant Crass noticed something odd. He says the sensor readings for those ships haven't changed at all, not even microscopic variations. It's as if we are looking at recordings, Kale Virek finished, his scales paling slightly. Have we checked for human activity near our... A junior officer burst onto the command deck, breaking all proper Imperial protocol. Commander, 3 more ships just went dark, and engineering reports that someone has replaced all their technical manuals with something called Menga. Kale Virik slumped in his hover throne. How? How are they doing this? We have them completely surrounded. Our technology is centuries ahead of theirs. Our ships are the pride of the Empire. Sir, Mira Solon interjected. There's more. The crew of Battleship 223 reported hearing something called elevator music in their command center. When they investigated, they found this in their main computer. She projected a hologram. It was a crude animation of something called a dancing banana, accompanied by unnecessarily cheerful music. "Turn it off," Kale Virik shrieked. But it was too late. 3 junior officers were already humming the tune. The final straw came during the night cycle. Kale Virik was awakened by an urgent message from a patrol ship. "Commander," the obviously shaken officer reported, "we detected an unusual energy signature and investigated. We found this attached to our hull." The camera showed a small, crude-looking device with a note attached. The note read, "Thanks for the Wi-Fi password, Earth." "What password?" Kale Virik demanded. "Our networks are encrypted with quantum-grade security," Sir Mira Solon said quietly. "About that, it seems someone changed all our security passwords to password 123. We don't know when. Also, the entire night shift crew is now subscribed to something called Netflix." Kale Virik stared out at the supposedly blockaded planet, his magnificent empire's greatest ships arranged in an impenetrable barrier around it. At least, it was supposed to be impenetrable. Now, he wasn't so sure. "Sir," Lieutenant Crass ventured carefully, "the crew would like to know if watching just one more episode counts as treason. They really need to know what happens next in something called Stranger Things." In the silence that followed, broken only by the faint sound of human music coming from somewhere in the ship's ventilation system, Kale Virik had a disturbing thought. What if they weren't containing the humans at all? What if somehow they were exactly where the humans wanted them to be? "Don't be ridiculous," he muttered to himself, straightening his ceremonial armor. "They still use combustion engines. What's the worst they could do?" The next morning, half the fleet's replication units would mysteriously start producing only something called pizza with pineapple. The real trouble began when supply ship 989 reported an unusual incident. They had detected what appeared to be an antiquated human spacecraft, little more than a tin can with rockets, really drifting helplessly near their position. Following standard Imperial protocol for dealing with primitive vessels, they activated their tractor beam to bring it aboard for research purposes. That was their first mistake. "What do you mean the cargo hold is full of rubber ducks?" Kale Virik roared, his scales cycling through colors so rapidly that several bridge officers had to look away to avoid motion sickness. The supply ship's captain looked thoroughly embarrassed. They were inside the human vessel, sir. When we brought it aboard, they just multiplied, and they make this squeaking noise when you step on them. The crew has started collecting them. Some are even naming them. Naming them. Naming them. Kale Virik's voice hit a pitch previously achievable only by quantum string vibrations. "Destroy them immediately." "We tried, sir. Plasma weapons just make them bounce, and now they are somehow in the ventilation system. Also, they seem to be glowing." Before Kale Virik could respond, Admiral Nixus burst onto the bridge. "Sir, we have multiple reports of similar incidents across the fleet. Battleship 775 picked up what they thought was space debris. It turned out to be thousands of something called Lego bricks. 3 crew members are currently in medical after stepping on them." Dreadnought 442 responded to a distress signal. Lieutenant Crass added, reading from an increasingly bizarre list. They found a human shipping container that their scans showed contained vital medical supplies. When they opened it, it released something called confetti and started playing Never Gonna Give You Up on all frequencies. Kyle Virek slumped in his hover throne. Surely our mighty fleet hasn't been reduced to... Sir, a communication officer interrupted. We are receiving a transmission. It's coming from everywhere. The hollow screen flickered to life, showing Ambassador Elara Quinn. She was sitting in what appeared to be a primitive Earth office, calmly drinking coffee. Good morning, Commander Vex Tor. I trust you are enjoying our care packages. Care packages? This is sabotage, warfare, a violation of... Oh, not at all. Elara smiled. We are simply sharing our culture. Since you are so interested in adding us to your empire, we thought we'd give you a taste of what you were getting. Speaking of taste, how's the pizza? The pizza is irreal. Wait, how did you know about... Commander Mirasolan interjected urgently. We have multiple situations developing. Battle Group 7 reports their entire sector is filled with something called bubble wrap. 3 ships have broken formation because their crews can't stop popping it. Cruiser Squadron 4 is surrounded by autonomous cleaning devices the humans call Roombas, Joran added. They appear to be hurting our ships. And Sir Nexus said, her wings drooping. The missing scout ships. We found them. They are all safely parked in their designated positions, but their entire crews are engrossed in something called a TikTok challenge. Elara's smile widened. You see, Commander, while you were busy showing off your fancy ships and advanced technology, we decided to demonstrate something humans are particularly good at, turning anything and everything into entertainment or a weapon, sometimes both. As if to prove her point, alarms began blaring across the fleet. Sir, our ships are being bombarded with... Mirasolan checked her readings 3 times, with small packages labeled Amazon Prime. They are attaching themselves to our hulls and... Oh my. What? What are they doing? They are delivering themselves inside our ships through the waste disposal systems. Contents appear to be promotional samples of human products. Several crews are now demanding something called a Prime membership. Kyle Virek watched in horror as his mighty blockade into chaos. Ships were breaking formation to chase Roombas. Others were being slowly engulfed in bubble wrap. Some had crews too busy unboxing their deliveries to maintain position. This is impossible, he sputtered. We have the most advanced military in the galaxy. We cannot be defeated by consumer products. Oh, that's not defeat, Elara said cheerfully. That's just marketing. Would you like to see defeat? She pressed a button on her primitive desk. Suddenly, every ship in the fleet received the same message. Your free trial of premium imperial status has expired. Would you like to purchase the full version for 12 easy payments of... No, Kale Virek whispered. You really should have read the terms and conditions on that Wi-Fi password, Elara noted. Now, about those mutual benefits we wanted to discuss, Sir Joran reported, his voice shaking. 80% of the fleet is now locked in safe mode. The only functioning programs are something called Clippy and Space Cadet Pinball. Kale Virek stared at the human admiral, his mighty empire reduced to chaos by rubber ducks, subscription services, and outdated software. What? What do you want? Well, first, we'd like to negotiate proper diplomatic relations. Second, we have some thoughts about modernizing your user interface design. And third, she held up her coffee cup, we'd like to discuss an exclusive trade deal. Do you have any idea how many worlds in your empire would pay premium prices for genuine Earth coffee? As if to emphasize her point, a final message flashed across every screen in the fleet. This hostile takeover attempt has been sponsored by Human Ingenuity TM, because sometimes the best weapon is an annoying inconvenience delivered in bulk quantities. Kelvirik looked at his fleet, mighty warships now covered in rubber ducks, Lego bricks, and Prime delivery stickers, crews more interested in streaming services than maintaining military discipline, and made a mental note to update his personal collection's title from Greatest Subjugations to Greatest Miscalculations. Commander Kelvirik sat in his ready room, surrounded by rubber ducks, trying to make sense of how everything had gone so catastrophically wrong. Admiral Nexus and Intelligence Officer Mira Solon had just arrived with their final analysis, and the truth was more devastating than any military defeat. "Let me understand this correctly," Kelvirik said, picking up a rubber duck that had somehow found its way onto his desk. "You are telling me this was their plan from the beginning?" Mira Solon nodded, bringing up a holographic display. "We have finally decoded their early communications, that first diplomatic meeting, when Admiral Reeves seemed so interested in our architecture. She was scanning our ship's layout with a primitive device disguised as a coffee cup." "A coffee cup," Kelvirik repeated flatly. "Yes, sir. And those 8 missing science vessels we could never properly track. They were never there. The humans had already removed them before we arrived. The sensor readings we kept seeing were, well..." Mira Solon looked embarrassed. "Were what?" "Screensavers, sir. They loaded screensavers into our sensor arrays during the diplomatic visit. We spent weeks watching the equivalent of animated backgrounds while their ships moved freely through our blockade." Nexus's wings fluttered anxiously. "It gets worse, sir. Remember how our crews started receiving those entertainment broadcasts? That wasn't accidental leakage. The humans were deliberately addicting our crews to their content. But why? What could they possibly gain from showing us their primitive entertainment?" Sir Mira Solon said gently. "While our crews were binge-watching human shows, the humans were using our own communication channels to study our technology. Every time someone streamed another episode, the humans received packets of our technical data in return. That's impossible. Our systems are secured by password 1123, sir, which, by the way, wasn't randomly chosen by a hacker. Our own crews changed it because the original quantum encrypted passwords were too hard to remember while they were trying to log in to watch something called Game of Thrones." Kelvirik's scales had turned an unprecedented shade of gray. "The Roombas. Reconnaissance drones, sir. Very sophisticated ones disguised as simple cleaning robots. Our crews literally invited them aboard because they were tired of cleaning up confetti and rubber duck feathers. And the Amazon deliveries. Each package contained a tiny quantum transmitter. We literally paid them to install surveillance devices in our ships. Apparently, several crew members used their military stipends to purchase premium memberships." A junior officer burst in. "Sir, we have another situation. The crews, they are unionizing." "They are what?" Kelvirik croaked. "They are demanding better working conditions, sir. Shorter shifts, better entertainment packages, and something called Casual Fridays. They have formed a group called Blockaders United for better benefits." Nexus cleared her throat sacs. "That's not the worst part, sir. We have discovered why those rubber ducks were glowing." "Do I want to know?" "They are quantum entangled, sir. The humans have been using them to transmit data through our security barriers. Every time a crew member picked one up or played with it, they were inadvertently helping Earth gather intelligence. So every time we tried to get rid of them, we were actually spreading their surveillance network, yes, sir." Kelvirik stared at the rubber duck on his desk with newfound horror. It squeaked cheerfully at him. "The pizza," he asked weakly. A test, Sir Mira Solon replied. They wanted to see how our replication technology worked. By adding pineapple, they created a controversy that kept our crews debating food instead of questioning why their replicators had been reprogrammed. And that dancing banana animation, a visual trigger, sir. It contained encoded instructions that subtly reprogrammed our neural enhancement implants. Our crews have been unconsciously humming Earth songs because they are actually transmitting data through our own cybernetic networks. The junior officer spoke up again. Sir, the union representatives would like to discuss their demands. They are offering to communicate through something called a Zoom meeting. Kale Virek looked around his ready room. Every rubber duck seemed to be watching him. The confetti on his floor had arranged itself into suspicious patterns. Even his hover throne was making an unusual humming sound that somehow reminded him of never giving up and never letting down. Tell me honestly, he asked his officers. Did we ever have them blockaded at all? No, Sir Mira Solon admitted. While we were congratulating ourselves on containing them, they were turning our own fleet into an extension of their information network. Every measure we took to isolate them just gave them more ways to infiltrate us. And now, sir, we have 10,000 ships full of crews who are more interested in Earth culture than Imperial protocol, systems thoroughly compromised by duck-based quantum computing, and a labor movement demanding streaming service benefits. The rubber duck on Kelvirek's desk squeaked again. He could have sworn it winked at him. Sir, the junior officer interrupted once more. The union also wants to discuss implementing something called a 4-day work week. And Commander, they have hired Admiral Reeves as their negotiator. The day the Galactic Meridian Empire truly fell began with a notification sound. Congratulations, announced every screen on every ship in the fleet. You have been selected for a free upgrade to Human OS 2.0. Kyle Virek, who had been trying to remove a particularly stubborn rubber duck from his personal quarters, froze. Don't accept it. Nobody accept the upgrade. But it was far too late. Like eager consumers presented with a shiny new product, crew members across the fleet had already clicked accept terms and conditions without reading them. Again. Sir, Lieutenant Joran reported from the bridge, his voice filled with awe. You need to see this. The commander rushed to the bridge, only to stop dead in his tracks. Where there had once been standard Imperial displays showing tactical information and ship status, there were now sleek, user-friendly interfaces with something called dark mode. What is this? He demanded. They call it a quality-of-life update, Sir Mira Solon explained, scrolling through a help menu that somehow knew exactly what she wanted before she asked. And sir, you might want to look outside. The view through the command deck windows had changed dramatically. Their supposedly advanced ships were transforming before their eyes. Quantum reconfigurators that had once taken entire engineering teams to operate now had simple touchscreen interfaces. Weapon systems that had required complex calculations could now be aimed with something called auto-targeting assist. Sir, Admiral Nixus reported, her wings trembling. The humans have somehow reverse-engineered our entire technology base. They used our own ships as beta testers for their innovations. All those entertainment streams, social media platforms, and delivery services. They were studying how we interacted with technology. But we are the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, Kale Virek protested. They were barely space-capable when we arrived. About that, sir, Joran said, pulling up a new display with a suspiciously smooth gesture control. Remember those 47 scientific vessels? Turns out each one was conducting different research into our technology while we were watching their obvious ships. Their actual research vessels were hiding in what they call plain sight, painted with corporate logos and delivering packages. A transmission cut through their conversation. Admiral Reeves appeared on screen, still with that infuriatingly calm smile and ever-present coffee cup. "Good morning, Commander. I trust you are enjoying the upgrade. Our UX team worked really hard on the interface design. They say thank you for all the feedback your crews provided through their social media complaints." You planned this from the start, Kale Virek realized, slumping into his hover throne, which now had lumbar support and a cup holder. "Of course we did. You gave us exactly what we needed. 10,000 ships worth of advanced technology to study, crews eager to test our products, and a convenient excuse to rapidly advance our technological capabilities. After all, who would suspect a species that spent most of its time sending cat videos?" Across the fleet, ships were reporting similar transformations. Crews were discovering that their dreaded Imperial combat training simulations now had achievement systems and leaderboards. The notorious Imperial chain of command had been replaced with a more efficient project management system, complete with emoji reactions. Sir Mira Solon reported, "I'm receiving word that our ship's AI systems have been completely reformatted. They are now running on something called Common Sense Protocol." "The horror," Kale Virek whispered. "It gets worse," Nixus added. "The entire fleet's bureaucratic system has been streamlined. Forms now autofill and approval processes have been reduced by 90%. Impossible. The Empire runs on unnecessary paperwork. It's a fundamental principle of our society. Oh, and one more thing," Ilara added cheerfully. "We have updated your ship's quantum communication networks. They now run on something we call Social Media Plus. Your crews can now instantly share their thoughts about Imperial management across the entire fleet." As if on cue, Kale Virek's personal console pinged with 10,000 new notifications. Imperial work reform was trending across the fleet. "The final part of the upgrade should be implementing right about now," Ilara said, checking her watch. Throughout the fleet, every rubber duck simultaneously began to glow. The quantum network they had created linked together, forming what the humans called a Collective Intelligence Enhancement Field, or CF for short. "You see," Commander Ilara explained, "while you were busy showing off your technological superiority, we were busy making it better, more user-friendly, more efficient, and most importantly, more fun. Your crews aren't just using our technology now, they are enjoying it." Kyle Virek watched in despair as his mighty fleet effectively reorganized itself through a series of productivity apps and team-building exercises. The once feared Imperial command structure had been reduced to a collaborative workspace with optional dark mode. "Would you like to rate your invasion experience?" a helpful pop-up asked on his screen. "Your feedback helps us improve our planetary defense systems. Face it," Commander Ilara said kindly. "You didn't fail to conquer Earth. You succeeded in becoming our most enthusiastic beta testing group. Now, about that trade agreement. Our marketing department has some fascinating ideas about rebranding the Galactic Meridian Empire as a tech startup." The rubber duck on Kale Virek's console squeaked supportively. It was wearing a tiny Earth tourism t-shirt. One standard galactic year later, Kyle Virek sat in a coffee shop on Earth, writing his memoirs on a primitive device called a laptop. His ceremonial armor had been replaced with something the humans called business casual, and a small rubber duck keychain dangled from his hover throne's cup holder. The former Supreme Commander of the Galactic Meridian Empire, now Chief Innovation Officer of Earth Meridian Technologies, took a sip of his pumpkin spice latte, and continued typing. In conclusion, our greatest mistake wasn't underestimating humanity's military capabilities. Our mistake was failing to recognize that they had already mastered the most powerful force in the universe: user engagement. While we focused on building weapons, they built platforms. While we sought to command, they sought to entertain. While we tried to impose order, they created chaos and called it a feature. The Empire now serves as Earth's primary beta testing group for new technologies. Our ships, once symbols of military might, have become floating research and development centers. The dreaded Imperial Palace has been converted into a tech campus, complete with sleep pods and free snack bars. Admiral Reeves, now CEO of Earth Meridian Technologies, still drinks coffee from that same scanning cup during board meetings. She says it's for nostalgia, but I suspect she's still scanning something. I have learned not to ask. The rubber ducks have been officially classified as a sapient species due to their quantum consciousness network. They now have their own union and voting rights. Several have been elected to the new Galactic Senate, where they contribute primarily through meaningful squeaks and surprisingly insightful meme sharing. As for myself, I have learned to embrace the human way. My quarterly performance reviews are outstanding. My work-life balance has improved dramatically, and my therapist says I'm making excellent progress with my control issues. Would I go back and do things differently? Launch a full-scale invasion instead of a blockade? Prevent my crews from accessing human entertainment? Ban rubber ducks from Imperial space? No, because now I understand what humanity knew all along. True power isn't about control, it's about connection. Also, subscription services are surprisingly profitable. End log, posted from my iPhone. Kael'Virek closed his laptop and looked out the coffee shop window at the bustling street, where humans and aliens walked together, most of them staring at their phones. A group of rubber ducks waddled past, heading to a blockchain seminar. His wrist device pinged. Another 5-star review had just come in for his autobiography, How Earth Turned Our Empire into a Startup, a memoir. He smiled, picked up his coffee, and headed to his next meeting. They were discussing plans to turn the Imperial fleet into a space-based streaming service. The rubber duck keychain squeaked contentedly. It was wearing a tiny manager badge.